is an international expert in, well, so many things. He is certainly an international expert in terms of cyber and counterterrorism, also in terms of risk management in general, and he is a worthy name in another organization called ISACA, where he also speaks. We are very pleased to have Claudio join us yet again in London, which must by now be your favorite city. Yeah? Which one?
That means that again means too many times.
Too many times.
It's too much.
Maybe.
Sorry about that.
So he's brought along a picture of London as he would like to imagine it. But please join me in welcoming Professor Claudio Cilli.
Your Majesty.
Your Honor.
I bring with me that I have Princess Anne. The minimum I can name as His Majesty. Thanks for coming and listening to me again. Sorry about that. The presentation will take 1 hour and a few minutes, but because the most important thing after the presentation is the food waiting in the other area. It's nothing worth a cold pizza. I promise to finish on time. Okay, so I assure you, the presentation is made of many slides, but most of them are just dividers, so don't worry about this. For people who already have the presentation on your PC. Since I do not trust in technology, in case of a problem, one is the screen doesn't accept the laser point, I have the disaster recovery with me. Because, you know, I do not trust on technology in general. And the need of cyber rules is for this reason, because we are now navigating deep sea of rules, regulations, edict, ideas, issues, journals, everyone is talking, including the legislator. The matter is, people issuing laws are not aware of the problem, and generally they are not aware of everything. And this is typical because no one knows what is speaking of or writing. So the laws and the rules and the regulations are cumbersome, often in conflict with each other, and sometimes really hard to follow. But on the other side, there's something good in this because they are raising the culture level, the awareness level. Let's try to navigate in this industry. This is a scary movie, so please skip it. Okay, if you want, you can. I normally start my presentation with a nice sentence coming from the Litanies to Satan from Charles Baudelaire. In fact, people do not believe those things are happening, but they are. We need to raise the awareness level. Companies do not realize this is a matter, this is a problem. They often know only how to earn money. Everything not directly related to selling or in general to make profit is considered a cost. Security is the typical cost. Companies do not believe. How to convince them, like the Satan in Charles Baudelaire's sentence, to invest and to consider security an investment because saving from a damage, saving from an accident is an earning, is an advantage for a company. Hello. Is the only way. When you are made to follow a rule, and if you do not comply, fine or criminal allegation is on the rise, and you are suffering fines and pains, legal pains. At this time, you start considering the cybersecurity and security is not as a cost. You are still considering as a cost, but a cost you have to comply, you have to suffer. This is the agenda for this evening. No problem. The slides are and the items in the agenda. I will focus only on the most important of them. Anyway, I do not read the presentation, but to explain, especially using my personal experience in this field. I see this because you are about to see a show, the circus show. You are asking, what kind of show? Let's wait a few moments. Regulatory overview. This is not wrong, it's Florence for your information. What is the problem of internet security? Cybercrime in all countries is the first found, is the first source of damage. A statistical from the fabulous Big Four says 85% of crimes comes from the cybercrime or is related to cybercrime. This is true because any kind of business is done through internet or using a computer. So this we didn't need Big Four sentences. This is true anyway. And those are the three angles for actions directly coming from the EU Commission. After a lot of years, many years thinking, they decide the security comes as from three perspective points: to prevent, to prosecute, and to protect. Prosecute is the most important, again, because from one side, we can prosecute the criminals and who does illegal activity. On the other side, we can prosecute company which do not comply with rules and regulations. So prosecute is on the same level after 10 years of talking and chatting and thinking about this, at the same level to protect and prevent. Both are prevent and protect are expressed in two different regulations, DORA and NIS2. We focus our presentation, my presentation, on those two, which are only two actors of the giant circus, because they represent in a good way the overall situation, but they are only two pieces of the mosaic. The new cybersecurity strategy can be divided, this is the beginning of the show, can be divided into three pillars. On one side, the resilience, technological sovereignty, and leadership. Those words comes from the EU position. We are natural after all, nothing special. But anyway, resilience, technological sovereignty, and leadership are expressed in several sub-commissions or document issued by UE. The NIS2 is directive, not regulatory, talking about protections in general and prevention, mostly on protection rather than prevention, but the difference is very thin. Cybersecurity shield, techniques, CERT, SOC, and others are technical aspects to whom report to receive help and to declare and notify incident or in general problem that happened to your entity. Company, entity are roughly the same, whether entity is broader or legal. For example, a medical study or a professional is still an entity and sometimes is subjected to those rules with some limitations. Secure communication, quantum, energy, mobile, IP, version 6, DNS are technical documents on the development issued by you. Lastly, we have some competence centers and network coordination centers, also named the triple CNAM. Then some upskilling workforce with some On the end, we are, second pillar is building operational capacity to prevent, deter, and respond. Risk management net framework, cybercrime agenda, member state cyber intelligence, and additional document and regulation promoted and sent to the various states. Lastly, we have cooperation to advance in global and cyberspace. Additional norms and regulation. The result is yes. Before entering into the show, just some variation. The UK officially is not adopting the NIS since it is European EU document and a directive. By the way, he helped and he worked with you, and the mystery actually after the parentheses, EU is working again with the UK and back, and many programs are restarted, including the cybersecurity. So whilst officially the United Kingdom is not adopting NIS, in fact, after the King's speech, which expressly mentioned the cybersecurity and the objective to have to cooperate and have this common language, the UK is adopting principles and, in fact, everything from NIS2. The rest of the world, many other countries, especially the countries above the digital divide, to 1/3 of the entire world population, actually supposed to be above the digital divide. Even I prefer people, those are below the digital divide, since computing is a waste of time, it's a waste of everything, especially for the AI, but it's a different story. By the way, the rest of the world, the many other countries are issuing rules and regulations, all inspired by NIS2 principle. So the NIS2 is quite simple, but in its simplicity, it poses the fundamentals, the basis for a common language. Not too complicated. Yeah, the NIS2 needs to improve, but it's quite good because the things written inside are, the result are common experience and good practices. And this is the circus. This is just at the top of the iceberg. The complete circus is, if I wanted to picture in this frame, all committee, groups, rules, regulation in the EU, I needed a giant screen or very, very small icons, so you cannot read. Anyway, the father of everything is the Cybersecurity Act, which also derives from the digital decade of 2030, where some principal foundations were defined. European cybersecurity framework. The result was the Cybersecurity Act, which is also divided in several others. DORA, the EUCC, the NIS2, plus some others. The Cyber Solidarity Act, the Cyber Resilience Act, some services, plus other rules and regulation on the rise. In any case, the most important are two, DORA and NIS2. So I will focus on them, not because others are less important, but because others are a derivation from the NIS2 and the DORA. So, once you're familiar with the NIS2 and DORA implications, so we are quite familiar with everything, related to EU legislation. But this is not the end of the show, because there are other bodies inside this. The AOCCC, NISA, which is the technical consultant provider, service consultant, is a center of is a competence center, it's a research center, but no authority, is only a consultation service, and everything they do must be transformed in a directive on a regulation. That we have a cycle for technical, and again, DORA and then NIS2. This is the very tiny picture of the situation. But if you want to navigate in this deep sea, you need a very big boat. What's the difference between a EU regulation? It's important to understand, sorry if you already are aware of this, but sometimes, refreshing memory, the SSD memory is good. The record is below it has no in all new countries and for what I mentioned before, UK and other countries. The directive means countries or the member states must adopt the directive, but the directive should be received and transformed in a local law, bringing some different interpretation and a different wording, for example. Our regulation, on the other hand, like DORA, applies directly to the member states and to other states who wants to make business with the EU, with no change, no amendment, as it is. So the regulation is stronger than a directive. DORA is a regulation. After that, we have other levels of documents. We have a decision, a recommendation from NISA, for example, opinions. We do not consider those for the moment because they are not effect in terms of compliance for countries. However, an opinion and decision is good to settle some controversials or interpretation, different point of views. What do DORA and NIS2 like to talk? You will feel good. First of all, they have something in common, something not in common, something better, something worse, but different point of view and different targets. The common point is, especially for NIS2, is to ensure or increase the digital trust. This is the mandatory statement from the EU now. So what we can do, we need to do is to ensure digital trust and improve the digital trust. Digital trust for the EU has a specific interpretation, meaning trusting in the IT, of course, but it's not so easy. It's easier to say rather than to apply. Trust into IT means have a IT system working exactly as it's supposed to work. This is why you trust, because the IT systems manages your data, your financial data, your personal information. If we need to be sure it works exactly as it was designed. This is a digital trust, according to the EU. We can do that depending on the entity from two different points of view, which are the NIS2 and the DORA. The Digital Operation Results Act, also named DORA, and the Network Information Systems NIS2, DORA is a regulation and NIS2 is a directive, provide comprehensive blueprints for achieving this goal from a different point of view. Especially because they are the target, the audience, and the destination of both are different. Whilst the DORA applies specifically to financial institutions, the term should be read as a broad term. That means financial institutions are bank, brokers, insurance companies, anyone who manages other people's money. The NIS2 applies to the rest of the world. It's divided, the NIS2 provides 16 different categories and entities to whom the NIS2 directive applies. Not only belonging to a specific sector, but also your dimension, decide whether you are a NIS2 entity or not. Then I show you that afterwards. In case an organization falls in both NIS2 and DORA, the stricter one applies. The stricter is DORA. So in case of conflict, in case a company for some reason is a NIS2 entity and a DORA, DORA, which is stricter, applies. DORA is different and the requirements are different from the GDPR. GDPR applies to both, to all countries, there's all companies, sorry, only limited to personal information treatment, also named PII. The GDPR is looser rather than DORA. For example, the notification time for an incident, cybersecurity incident or data breach, the official name for GDPR is 72 hours per days. DORA states you have to notify it to the proper body within 1 day, 24 hours. That means DORA is stricter than GDPR. And this can be seen in other requirements from both GDPR and DORA. So if you do comply with DORA, you comply with the GDPR. It's a question some people ask me, where's the place, where is the GDPR place in this circle? GDPR is, for many reasons, a little looser than the DORA. So DORA is stricter. If you are a DORA entity, no problem with the GDPR. Only for the organization. And we have to talk about this to the later. DORA applies mainly to financial sector, broad term. Requirements apply to banks, insurance company, payment provider, investment firms, all financial organization, and technical provider body. For example, connectivity, exchange, fund exchange, SWIFT, to say one. All the interbankarian transfer system, for example, American Express, Visa, MasterCard, etc. All are DORA subjects. DORA covers critical third-party providers, and this is the good news, because this is the first time a regulation or a directive expressly refers and mentions the third party, the supply chain. All other regulation, you simply skip the third party management, saying if you are a supplier or a service, it's up to you comply with the requirement. Now things are different. If you are a supplier to a DORA entity, you must be a DORA entity, regardless of the specific requirement written in the regulation. So managing a third party is the critical part, and is also the good news. And the good news because it's both in DORA and in the NIS2. NIS2 has a broader scope, applies to many different sectors, 16, divided in two groups, essentials and important entities. The essentials are most critical, and they are supposed to be critical for a national, for a nation, for a country, for a state, for a member state. For example, connectivity provider, telephone service provider, the IP, domain registers are critical providers. And they are, for this reason, they are considered essential entity. The others within the 16th level are considered simply important entities. Difference from important and essential is just for, it's quite a slight difference. Just stricter requirements, but the requirements are the same, and greater fines and penalties in case of non-compliance. But the difference in mostly is only referred to this number, to this aspect. The requirements are still the same. DORA is a different story. The objectives are to align to ICT governance. The DORA is a framework, remember, or a regulation. DORA is designed to ensure financial entities remain operational. Is designed to continuing the operation. In other terms, disaster recovery and business continuity, but usually the aim is continuation of operation, which is the same, backup, restore, etc., providing strict requirements. So the DORA is focused on preserving and maintaining the integrity of data. The directive, the NIS2 Directive, is broader, covers many aspects, and is subjected to the interpretation, the achievement from the local states legislation of government body. The application centers, again, don't worry about this, but in the proceeding, the picture is larger. You can see without going to the optician tonight. They are closed now, I think. The application sectors, DORA is considered a specific regulation for the financial sector and still for a wider application. There are some overlaps. Again, the provisions DORA prevails to NIS2 provisions in case of conflict. Similarities. They are. Some are specific to DORA, some are specific from NIS2, some are in conflict. There is a regulation, financial sector, focus on resilience, ICT risk measurement, testing, third party. Please have a note. Risk measurement, testing, and third party risk. Testing and the national authorities are the only the only can do is to determine the penalties and nothing else. The NIS2 Directive, sector critical to the economy and society, 16 sectors, enable information system security, specific guidance to the maximum fine, but everything can be decided from the local authorities and the local parliaments. In common, they have enhancement of cybersecurity, its management, its reporting, etc. DORA applied to different sectors again. Resilience and risk management, both require organizations to strengthen their system and measure risk. These are in common, third-party risk management. The rest is quite the same. I want to stress the concept of third-party measurement, which is the most important part. The rest is a normal, is a, just a bunch of good practices after all. The organization, you have set an IT organization and a cybersecurity organization after all. Commonalities. One is accountability, risk management, supply chain security of third party, easy reporting, operational resilience, and enforcement penalties. When I say enhance or improve, I mean everything must be written. Everything should be formalized. Having a good organization without proving it, in other words, without providing to be able to provide evidence means nothing. And in case of inspection, you are subjected to fine and penalties. So everything should be formalized. IT organization, IT incident team, incident rules and procedure formalized. But you don't need to have them approved by a third party, by a third body. For NIS2. DORA is another story. And a third party, a third auditor plays a different role. Those are the NIS2 sectors. These are the essential. The rest are important. Wastewater, banking, transport, energy, power administration, space, financial market infrastructures, the drinking water, digital infrastructure, IT service management are considered essential entities. Don't ask me why wasting water falls into this, but water is a treasure and it's important to save water. And they decide companies dealing with the waste, disposable water, the wastewater are essential entities. The others are important entities. The difference among them is only the level of penalties and sometimes some parts of the requirements. DORA is different. DORA applies only to financial institutes. This is just an example. This is not comprehensive. General terms, everyone, every entity managing money of third party, other people money, is DORA subject, DORA entity. So this is to show the financial institutions in the scope, the most critical financial institution in the scope of DORA. The differences. DORA and NIS2 have share similarities, but they have some key difference. DORA compliance focuses specifically on the financial sector and third-party providers. NIS2 applies to a much broader range of sectors, including critical infrastructure like energy, healthcare, etc. DORA applies on digital operation resilience, ensuring financial entities can withstand and recover from IT disruption. Most of these. In fact, the cybersecurity risk is sort of a derivative from the primary objective, which is to ensure the continuity of operations. The regulatory authority, DORA, is overseen by the financial supervisory authorities. That means DORA is supervised from the member state national bank, which is also supervised from the EU central bank, BCE. That's it. No other bodies supervising this. The NIS2 is different, because the organization on how to comply to this directive is determined by the single member state, who has to issue a specific law covering NIS2 requirements, but penalties, organization, supervisory body, and other aspects are delegated to the single member state, thus increasing confusion of the law. This is a summary of the key differences. NIS2 can be also seen as a traditional cybersecurity approach. By the way, NIS2 is an evolution of the original NIS on NIS1, which had more diffusion. It was unlucky. It was really unlucky because too weak, too many interpretations. So the EU decided to rewrite NIS, but this time specifying exactly what to do and who are expected that we are supposed to do. Sometimes, how DORA is still compare? DORA requires financial organization to meet specific standard to ensure legal resilience. DORA requires financial institutions to report cyber incident within a specific time frame, especially design body. NIS only requires to notify the incident to a body not defined inside the directive. And they do focus on protecting critical infrastructure from cyber threats. Organization must regularly evaluate cybersecurity risks. The report is required, but it allows more flexibility on how to respond and what exactly to say, what exactly to report. And it still highlights the need for contingency plans to maintain essential service during disaster. Business continuity, but only highlights, you are strongly encouraged to do so. Often will include incident reporting, but DORA are stricter. This is a general view. Now let's go the rest of the time, about 30 minutes, 25 minutes, and do the deep into this. Third-party risk management, DORA versus NIS2. The third party is the most important thing. Both elected importance measure third party. DORA financial organization must conduct detailed risk assessment on third-party providers. Assuming a third party is a partner, not just a provider, and just because it's a supplier, the third party is a DORA entity. NIS2, many third party is mandatory, but requirements less strict. In fact, a qualification process, a questionnaire to qualify the partner, the supply chain is enough. What do I mean practice at the end? Now we know the differences. Risk management. DORA requires a documented framework with strategies, policies, etc. The digital operation has a strategy, must include risk knowledge, security. No, this digital framework, the risk response process and procedure must be formalized exactly according to the statements inside the DORA. Different things are for NIS2, where you are only supposed to establish a risk management process. The review shall be done at least annually of DORA from an authorized and accredited third party. NIS2, anything, including inside within the company, can do that. Internal audit, the IT audit can do the review. And this is for cybersecurity. Training is mandatory for both DORA and NIS2. Again, DORA, which is a very big document, explains in deep what kind of training is to be offered, the contents, the reviewing process, everything with a good level of detail. And it still just requires if people must receive a awareness or the name of the official name is awareness, I mean a cybersecurity training. The discontinuity is the same, and it still asks the entities to set a disaster recovery business continuity plan to ensure their objectives are met, whilst DORA requires a specific disaster recovery plan, and the chapter, the statements, the contents is specified within the DORA. DORA also dedicates a chapter, a part of the regulation to specify how to perform backup and recovery and test. audit, easy. NIS2 requires audit generally. DORA requires specific audit performed by an accredited third party, at least annually. In addition, the independence of auditor of the audit function must be declared and specified in a very formal way. No relatives, you have not been working in the past or in the future with the same company. No relatives are yours. You have no business in common. You didn't do business with the company, blah, blah, blah. Everything must be written. Everything I say is must be in a specific and approved procedure. Is the reporting, this is the line. Remember, the NIS2 is similar to the DORA. To the GDPR. DORA, everything must be done within 24 hours. So the reporting time frame for DORA is strict. For the NIS2 is the same as the GDPR. This is timeline. Another good topic is the vulnerability testing. Both encourage entities to perform a vulnerability or penetration test at least annually, but NIS2 simply advises companies and do that. DORA requires a mandatory penetration test and also requires the penetration test must be done by a certified third party using a specific methodology. For example, approved by the regulatory inspector, that means for DORA, the National Bank. For example, in Italy, the Italian National Bank approved a specific methodology whose name is a Tiber, like the river, and is a framework, specific framework, including the use of tools, the organizations, how to perform the test, what to write in the report. In other words, simply starting Nessus and print the Nessus report is not enough. But it's what the big companies do and sell the Nessus report, mostly of the free version of Nessus to their clients. But this again is another story. Testing of the operational resilience, the regular scans and assessment should be done. Last chapters and last statement are check the physical security also, this for DORA. Performance testing, again, from DORA, check whether your systems, your computer, your networks is able to provide services to clients in the agreed times and levels, service levels. And lastly, the requirements for the third party. The third party is considered a partner. This is why the DORA and the NIS2 also can assist in case of problem and in case of accident at the third party. In general, the aim is to consider the supply chain a chain of partners rather than a chain of customer and seller. Those are the critical ICT providers, plus other provisions. Responsibility, legal liability, skill needs, everything is written. The responsibility, the penal responsibility is for the top management and cannot be delegated. Only for DORA, for example, who does the penetration test or the audit, which share the responsibilities and both are liable, of course. Information is another EU regulation, very young. It was issued on October the 10th this year. And those are penalties for the essential entities. For the important entities, same but lower level. 2% the annual turnover is a good number, but it's nothing compared to the additional penalties. For example, the impossibility to make business with the public administration, who have the sentence been published to the magazines. So that, you know, the collateral penalties are more critical rather than the simple percentage, which is in any case a good number. Conclusion. Conclusion is very easy. Go home and start working. But it is not enough. Just an extra show for you in these last 15 minutes. It is the agenda for the tough part of the show. Cyber warfare. In the cyber warfare. And why I want to talk about here? Because it's part of the overall picture. Think about, you think back to what I said, both NIS2 and DORA applies and are intended, normal entities, legal entities, not for illegal entities. What we can do to prevent illegal entities to create harmful for us? I mean, how to regulate the relationship with the legal and illegal. I mean, the illegal but legal activity is when a country does something wrong against another country or another company, for example. This is cyber warfare. Apart this one, which is now everything is clear and we know the others. It was an APT group. The name is APT 28. Also, the name is Defensible. So we know about everything. But there are other strange situations like this. It's true. It's real. Is a current attention settle the US class action for family because they share, how can I say, the activity. Okay? The performance. Proud, especially males, are the level of performance, but I talk for myself, I prefer to keep them on my own. I don't like those embarrassing things. But this company did. I know the idea would be nice because if the all partners live in separate countries, I hope all of you are overage, not underage. If whether both partners live in different countries, they can share sessions. Okay, and the best way is to use a cell phone connected to the tool, and the cell phone provides communication to share the sensation. But everything is an internet, and to do that, this is a VPN. To have both to connect, you need a server where all systems must connect to share the information. And things happen. First, the server was Android-based server, and it was hacked. Second, they published the statistics of the data they collected data, allowing reading the statistics and the content of statistics to determine the person who was on the bottom of the statistics. So they said, this is cyber warfare. Plus some interesting things like this, a hidden camera. The human factor. Cyber warfare is also Windows. Open Windows, press this is a Windows 8, Windows 10. Press the Windows icon and the menu pull up. And pulls up where informing other about unwanted information. Someone can read it. Social media allows investigations or illegal activities. In this case, a person tried to hide himself, but still being present in the social network because people cannot refrain from write, from talk, from post. The art of silence is a forgotten art. I do remember Simon Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence, but now people prefer, not at all. Since we have a mouth, you can use for speak, why not? And they talk, and they keep talking, but this is an innocent behavior, but there is some need, so there's a need for a law to regulate it. Plus to avoid strange things like this. You remember this young man? He was a soldier. Do you see anything strange in this smiling face? Right? Is him. But do you see anything strange in the picture?
Look on detail.
You wrote a schedule up there.
Can we do a zoom in? Oops. First, this is a different. This one is the room plan. The regional presentation. There's another
Log on details, oh god.
look on details.
Brilliant.
Everyone do a mistake. This is a company. You can get your free trial of Spy and install in your enemy's cell phone. You can track the cell phone is under your power. Galileo is the most famous. It was hacked. This is why we know it. Localization service. Zerodium, nice software, Android and iOS. The constellation of apps and the plugins like this. It is Zerodium because it remembers the periodic table of elements. If you know, ancient chemistry remains. And this is a 0-day option. This is the cyber warfare. And now just few more slides. These are half real, everything is real, but it's a half laughing, half sad situation. It was a need again to regulate this. Why? Because the cyber weapons are proliferating now. They are sold for free. You are technical, you are technician, you are proficient in cybersecurity, you know. If I want to do a DDoS attack, simply I just download the HPing tree from their website. There's no need to go into the dark web. And I can set my PC as a and create with my PC and other friends' PCs a botnet for free. Do you want to explore and to crack database? Simply go to SQL map page, website, download the SQL map, www.sqlmap.org. You download the software, install your Linux or Kali Linux distribution, start the software against a website with a database on beneath, and everything, including the DBA administrator password, are under your fingers. Because the SQL map is connected to John the Ripper, for example, the famous password cracker. This is downloadable for free. Why? Because if you have a look at the website, it's written for research purposes only, to improve robustness of your database, to improve your skills when doing penetration testing. Of course, this is false. The SQL map is not to improve nothing, is to crack a database. There are no doubt about it. But since there is not a legislation to regulate this, it's possible to have those tools, those weapons available for free. So there's a need rules in the regulation. And it's a threat. It's a threat for national security, of course. The answer was, a few years ago, the Tele Manual. The Tele Manual is a book, where some experts from various countries, not only within the EU, from NATO, wrote a compendium of the various rules, regulations, and laws to help building the legal infrastructure. The manual is not a law, but is the starting point as an answer for this situation. And another problem is help desk managing third party, and you appoint as for an help desk for people, a company living or in another country. You need, in fact, the European Union did so, a rule to decide whether this country and this company is suitable for your needs. Otherwise, this is the result. Anyway, this is my recommendation for you, is my tip for you. Secure browsing. If you do that, you comply with this, you are complying with both DORA and the NIS2. Okay, that's all. You're right, it seems you are still open. It means at least thanks for disguising and make me believing you were interested. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much. It is my signature, and all my presentation ends with the signature. Thank you very much.
Now, Diana, any questions online? There, I'm addressing our host.
Yes.
This meeting.
Yes, Dalim, we already have a few questions here. So let me just know whenever you want to take questions from online or from there.
Okay, just to say, that is our colleague Diana, who's a member of the London Branches Committee, and she's speaking and hosting this from southern Italy, Tuscany in southern Italy.
My dividers, everything is connected.
So
Yeah.
this is to celebrate Claudio coming from the University of Rome, of course. But Diana, in English, could you tell us what the question is?
Of course. Claudio, the first question is related to DORA. Quantifying risk as the product of frequency and seriousness, such as cost, should higher profile commercial impacts be added to the DORA list? It's a question from Raymond Wills.
Commercial impact?
So should quantifying risk as the product of frequency and cost, should it be a higher profile as a commercial impact added to the DORA list?
Yeah, no, directly, because the requirements doesn't, both requirements do not ask to quantify the risk. It's a common practice to do that, but if you follow the DORA requirements, the procedure to do the risk analysis written as and they end to the level of risk, and not necessarily transformed into the figure in the economical factor. Answer is a good practice, is a common practice, but is not required specifically from DORA.
Thank you. Another question from John Alcock would be, what advice would you give to help an organization with its budget planning as it prepares for compliance with NIS2 and DORA? Are there any lessons we can learn from the cost of achieving NIS compliance?
The same as before.
A more practical question really here.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, those laws are mandatory, regardless of the cost and the effort. By the way, the organization can be tailored to accommodate budget, size of company, but in general, the requirement is strict, and you cannot avoid. What I forgot to mention, there's a good chance I have a couple of minutes more. What I forgot to mention is, and this is an addition for your question, is to define, to talk about the company damage, company size. And for this applies only to NIS2. DORA is the same whatever the entity is, one person, professional study, or a big company. The size is defined, is the difference between the original and NIS1. NIS2 strictly defines small, medium, large, and very large companies. Small is a company from 1 to 10 workers, not necessarily employees, just a full-time consultant. Medium is from 11 to 50, large from 51 to 250, and very large to more than 250. More than the very large are NIS2 entity. The large are entity if they fall within the sectors and their turnover is above 10 million. So euros or pounds roughly are the same. Small and medium, again, small is less than 1 million, more than from 1 million to 10 million. So you have to decide your activity, your sector of activity, and your size. There is a table, is an Annex 2, NIS2 Directive, to define what you are supposed to do if you are NIS2 entity and exactly the level of adoption you are required. Okay, as an answer?
It definitely does. And there is one last question from Lina Aminov, which is a more of a general question. How does the cyber industry how will the cyber industry change to adapt to new threats? How do you consider that the cyber industry will change in this idea of new threats?
People this afternoon interviewed me for a magazine asking the same question. I hope these rules and regulation will motivate people for changing. As I can say, it's a problem of mentality. If companies are considering everything not directly related to the company mission, that means earning money, and if this is considered a unproductive cost, mentality doesn't change. However, those rules, those regulations, since they are, formalization, common practice, I hope they will change the mentalities and consequently the industry. Who knows? Now it's time, time for cybersecurity is over. Now, for AI. The same people sold books or magazine at the newsstand, transformed in a cybersecurity guru, cyber czar, cyber expert. Now the same people transform themselves, that's the magic, into AI expert, AI guru, the AI everything. And when the AI bubble explode, those people transform themselves, Harry Potter, into something new. Anyway.
Sorry, Claudio, we have one more question that just popped up, and I think it's a very interesting one and a very current one. Raymond Willis is asking which framework could have saved Jaguar Land Rover from the impact.
Yeah, they're still. They're still.
Exactly.
I left Rome last Sunday, last month, 2 days ago. Okay, today is just Wednesday. 2 days ago. Okay, I lost. And they read the problem is there. The production is still stopped. I don't know today. I don't know what happened. For sure, they didn't comply with the DORA and the NIS2 because they omitted the basic requirements. My opinion is, once again, a ransomware. But without seeing the reports, without looking at the official reports, it's like an air accident. When something happens, everybody has their personal interpretation. I prefer wait for the official report. My opinion, but it's just my opinion, is a ransomware, and to recover from a ransomware takes many days.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Yeah, good. Back to enjoying southern Tuscany. In the room, we have about 50 people, and one of them is about to ask a question.
Professor Claudio, thank you for the interesting presentation. You mentioned the hierarchy of regulators under DORA.
Okay.
National regulators who regulate the entities, and obviously the EU-wide regulators that then regulate them. The lists of third-party critical entities and critical suppliers have been provided already this year, right? From the regulated parties to the national regulator, from the national regulator to the EU regulator, and we expect at some point this next month or so, they'll be published. Who are the critical EU-wide systems?
It's because I call this a circus.
Yeah. Okay. When
DORA,
well, my question actually is, when they are published, do you expect a lot of fuss about the fact that they're not EU companies? They're all going to be US companies.
you expect they will start complaining and they move to the right direction. Company did nothing up to now. The DORA is effective since January the 17th. Our company did nothing up to date. But at the end of this year, the DORA will be fully applied, including the penalties. Since this history is doomed to repeat itself, no? The famous philosopher Pico. If you go back to what happens for privacy, when the privacy law has been issued in the various countries, they did simply nothing until the last day. What happened on the last day? They asked to postpone the terms. But now they can't because DORA is effective. It's important they cannot. I expect on the last days, company will start going in trouble. Is my personal expectation. The organization is not clear, but the primary objective of the EU is to have the single members above all. It means the independence of the single states is above. This is why we don't have the United States of Europe, for example. So serving and preserving these mandatory requirements. Choose establishing an organization's necessary leads to this cumbersome organization. Whoever DORA works, and NIS2 needs to a testing period, but officially the NIS2 will be effective on April of next year. Some requirements should be completed within the end of this year. For example, training or planes, the adoption, the two-factor authentication, but the organization, everything should be completed within the next years Easter. I expect from February to March, the storm.
A lot of the transpositions are not finished for NIS2. They're not
I know.
legislated like still.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't want to repeat the Shakespeare sentence. They play much ado for nothing. I hope this is much ado for something. Hopefully. Gentleman there.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Bahrain. Someone already asked, I think, online a question like half the one I'm gonna ask. So with the laws, is it, I'm probably asking for your opinion mostly. Do you think it's just gonna be a continuous rat race of new laws being formed or updates to like DORA of continuing to like trying to tackle the new issues that form up in that sense? And also you mentioned something about people that are making the laws are not well informed, or like they don't have the whole idea or the whole picture. In your opinion, who do you think should be making the law, or like how do we fix that?
This is a never-ending story, so I expect this story will continue. I expect after the NIS2, the NIS3, etc. Again, my personal opinion is that they make profit of the lesson learned whilst applying this regulation. It's not complete because in general, the issue from laws and technology is the laws. There's always a delay from the law and technology. It's important. You cannot avoid it. If the law is very precise, if the law covers the specific technical aspects, the life of the law is very short because the technology grows. So the law necessarily must be broader and general. General law means you need other laws to explain the previous framework, and then additional. So this is a growing history. But as for now, laws are better than before. So the path is moving towards something better. Future? Oh no, I know. Future is AI, of course. Absolutely. AI is everywhere. I just talking with my friend, I changed my toothbrush, and I bought one where it is written on the box, AI powered. Feel in the heaven now. Now it's time for the AI. So this is the future.
Can I add on to that? Given that we already know it's a continuous cycle of the laws come after,
Yeah.
the issues, can we like make laws that are going to basically maybe tackle the other section? Be like, okay, this is what we have now, and this will work on this, but then whatever comes after this is in the other bracket, and then like guidelines for that or something.
Yes, hopefully, I hope so. I hope this is an upgrade, and they're upgrading and not changing it completely. I expect they add additional requirement. For example, now NIS2 is focused as a mandatory security measure to adopt the dual factor authentication. But we already know that 2FA is not so effective as it was supposed to be last year. So amendments of the law is on the rise. That's it. After all, why use the terms GRC, governance, risk, and compliance? Because compliance is a job by itself.
Okay, well, now we know. AI is the future. So, who is very much an international cyber expert. And just to underline the width and depth of his extremely broad, with extremely valuable knowledge in risk management. This is actually Claudio's second presentation today. So he's really going for it. We're really working him hard. Please join me in thanking Professor Claudio.